before I circle back to this passage. And just so you're aware of what's going on, so we don't get confused, I'm going to be doing my sermon in two parts, and we're going to have communion in the middle. So actually, I'm not going to manage to circle back to this passage and the actual theme of the service until the second part. So you just got to bear with me while I just do something random that wasn't planned, and just because I want to. Exactly. I can do what I like, basically. In my head, it all links together, but maybe you'll disagree with me at the end. Okay, so in terms of where I do want to start, is this working? There we go. We're going to start with the parable of the pearls. And I've got some pearls here. And I'm going to give you all a pearl. You each get to have a pearl, a genuine pearl. But we'll get to that later. We've got to do some work before you get the gifts. So the parable of the pearl. We've got actually two small parables that are very, very similar. There's the parable of the pearl and the parable of the treasure, if you know them. They're very, very similar. They're squeezed in Matthew 13, just a couple of verses each. We're just going to be focusing on the parable of the pearl, but the parable of the treasure is very, very similar and kind of has a very similar kind of theme and narrative. And it's set in a kind of whole section of a whole chapter where Jesus is teaching through these stories. Each story having a teaching element about what does it mean, what does the kingdom of heaven mean. So here's the parable of the pearl. I told you it was a long one. Some of these parables, stretch to pages, and this one, we get 2 verses. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had, and he bought it. So the normal understanding of this parable is here. Here we go. So we have the person, the merchant, and that's us. We have the pearl. The pearl is the kingdom of heaven, this amazing artifact. And we have the kingdom of heaven. It doesn't specify what the kingdom of heaven means in this particular instance, but we can infer it means heaven. It means a relationship with God. In that interpretation, the meaning of the parable is that in the kingdom of God we have something so precious that if we identify it, if we can find it, then there is nothing that is not worth giving up to get it. There's nothing that wouldn't be worth that sacrifice. Now, I don't disagree with that. I think that's a perfectly good interpretation. What God promises if we follow him is beyond value. If you're a Christian, I don't think you would disagree with that. It's a relationship right here, right now with the living God. That's pretty amazing. A guarantee that he will never leave us. A guarantee that we will have eternal life in heaven with him. As something that is incomparable in value, something that's worth giving up everything. I think that ticks the boxes. So I'm not going to disagree with that. But sometimes there are 2 ways of looking at things. So I've got some tests for you. What do you see there? Anyone? Anyone? Tell me what you saw there? It's gone. I'm not keeping it on screen. You only get a second to look at it. Anybody? What did you see? You saw Batman. Anybody else say anything? Wolverine. Wolverine's mask is to Batman. So, put your hands up if you think you saw Batman there. Put your hands up if you think you saw Wolverine. Anybody think they saw something completely different? Or I have no idea? Okay, let's go. If we go back, here it is. Look at it again. Have we got Wolverine or have we got 2 Batman facing off against each other? So you get the idea. We've got a few of these to go through now. Because I like this game. I got quite excited. And even Ruth got excited, found some more for me. So we've got too many. I blame Ruth, not me. Right, back to the black screen. Right, I'm only going to give you a couple of seconds. All right, you ready for this? Right, anybody see anything in that picture? Anyone? A girl with a pearl earring. Anybody see anything different? It's an old woman. Did you see the old woman? Yes, no. Did anyone else see the old woman? Yeah. So hands up if you saw an old woman. Hands up if you saw a young woman. They say more for the young woman. But let's go back just to clarify. So can you see it now? So if you're the old woman, you've got the nose here and the mouth here, and there's the eye. Yeah. Or the young woman with the nose here, and that's her ear. Same picture, two different ways of looking at it. Okay, next one. You get the idea now. Ooh. Vicky, what did you see? You're looking bemused. You saw a red bird. Did anyone see anything different than a red bird? A lion. You saw both. See, Ruben's on it. Yeah? Eagle cheek. Let's go back and see. There we go. It's a red bird and it's a lion. Everyone see both? Vicky's looking very confused. There's a nose, nostrils, the mouth. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Classic. Hey, if you've done these before, you know what it is. Eben? A duck and a hare. Did everyone see both of them? Do we need to go back? Go back. Is it a beak or is it ears? A rabbit or a duck. So that could be the beak. Or Right. Right, there we go. That's all you get. I can't remember what the next one is. Right, okay. Which way was the guy looking? Straight ahead? Some people think this way, some people think straight ahead. Let's go back. Which way is he looking? This one makes me feel slightly nauseous if I look at it too long. Because he's looking both ways. Is he looking straight ahead and he's been cut the case bit? Or is that his nose and he's pointing this way? I know, it's slightly nauseous. One picture, two ways of looking at it. Okay. So, my point is on those, there's one thing, we can look at it in two different ways. And that is often true of things in the Bible. There's a lot of depth in the Bible. And particularly when we're talking about in parables, you know, Jesus didn't necessarily talk on one level, he talked on multiple levels. So with this parable, I would challenge there's a different way of looking at it. I probably prefer this way of looking at it, which wasn't the way I was taught it when I was a child. I remember learning this and having the way I'd interpreted it before was the interpretation. But I was reading about it and somebody explained a different way of looking at it, and I actually prefer this, and I think it's, to me, personally, more powerful. So it's this. The person is God, the pearl is you, and the kingdom of heaven is God seeing in you something beautiful. Now, before we come back to that, the question is, why would we necessarily want a different way of interpreting that parable? It's a perfectly good interpretation. I said I agreed with the emphasis. Why search things? Well, there's a couple of things that make me think, well, actually it's worth looking at again. The concept of me being able to sell everything I have and get the pearl. The concept of me being able to work really hard and earn the kingdom of heaven. It's not something I fully agree with. I don't believe I can earn the kingdom of heaven, however hard I work. I don't believe I can earn my salvation. That comes from grace. That comes from God alone. So, that's one thing. Another thing, if you look at all the other parables in Matthew chapter 13, each of them has a very similar format. Each of them has a human, a character. In the parable of the sower, we have God the Father, who is a farmer. In the parable of the mustard seed, we have a man who is sowing the mustard seed. Again, the human in that parable is an image of God. With the parable of the yeast, we have a woman who is putting yeast in the bread. Again, the human in that is an image of God. And we are the yeast being stirred through society, being able to make a difference. We've got the parable of the weeds. God is the farmer sowing the seed, and we are the object, the wheat. We've got the parable of the net, where we've got fishermen sorting fish. Well, again, in the image, God is the fisherman doing the sorting. We are the object. We are the fish. So if we come back to this parable, potentially, it might be a better interpretation to think of the human in the character as God, and ourselves as the inanimate object. So we come back to it. The person being God, the pearl being us. And now, if we look at it like this, we have God seeing us. We have God seeing us as a valuable pearl. Something of worth. Something that is worth purchasing. Something, in fact, that is so valuable to God that he will give up everything to get that pearl, to redeem that pearl. And I would say that in the gospel, we read about a God who did that. We read about a God who sent his Son. God was prepared to pay any price to get that pearl. God was prepared to pay any price to redeem you, because God views you as beautiful. God views you as precious. I don't know how you think of yourself. We can often be quite self-critical. I think it's a beautiful image when it's viewed in that way, because God doesn't see you in that way. Now, I promised you pearls. You get your pearls now. There are a couple of people to kind of take these round. There you go, we'll get the teenagers to do it. Reuben and Caleb, thank you. Don't let anyone be greedy, only give them one each. Alright, as you get your pearl, I'd like you to have a look at it. Inspect your pearl. See what you think about it. See if you think I'm lying or not. Is it real or is it fake? Fake? No, Emmy, I can't believe you said that. The wrong shape. Hey, Reuben, there's a few people at the front who have any. Reuben, at the front. Right, has everyone got one? All right, I want you all to look at your pearl. What do you reckon, real or fake? No, Emmy's already gone in the fake camp. Fake? They are real. I'll confirm. They're real. I've got. Where's the packet gone? It says on the back. Here's the packet. Natural pearls. There you go. Now, in Asia, because I was a little bit skeptical. In Asia, they've got farms where they culture pearls, and they've got these massive racks of oysters. And they, when you see oysters swell, they open the oyster up and put sand inside to seed each pearl. And it's a kind of an industrial scale activity. Now, you may have noticed that these ones are not perfectly round. Kate pointed that out. Always critical. I don't imagine these are the A-grade ones, because I could get quite a lot of these on Amazon quite cheaply. But hey, I think maybe that reflects me a little bit better. I'm not perfectly spherical. We all come in different shapes and sizes. We all have our flaws. But if you look at that pearl, if I look at that pearl, it's kind of, I'm kind of slightly amazed, to think that that's something that's just been created inside an oyster. Looking at the kind of the sheen on it and the coloration of it, you can just see the kind of slight opalescence. It's a beautiful object. And the point being that we are also all individual, like these slightly chunky pearls. But we are so beautiful in God's sight that God sees that worth. God, your creator, he made you. He didn't make a mistake. He knows your worth. And he sees so much worth that he was prepared to send his son, Jesus. You are something that is worth redeeming, whatever the price. Now, that was the point I was going to break the sermon, and we're going to come to a time of communion, because I think that was quite a good point of seeing us, or trying to see us as God sees us, and trying to understand what God has done, the price he has paid to win us back. And at that point, coming to the communion table would be a good thing. And I promise I'll come back and I will actually talk about the subject then, and the passage. We ping on to the next slide? I can't. There we go. Fantastic. Ed, do you mind coming back up and to be able to play some